Hello, welcome to CarCast. I'm Matt, the Motorator DeAndrea. I'm here with the guys from Roadster Shop. It's good to have you on the show. You guys got a heck of a setup over there. It's a nice room you got, your own podcast room.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's good to be good to be on. Thanks for having us. It's a little bit funky being on the other side of this, right?
I
Podcasting the
mean, I'm sure you
podcast.
guys
Right,
have done plenty of.
Very few, believe it or not.
Really?
Start wondering, like, I don't know, maybe people just don't have a lot of interest in hearing about
I know
the Roadster Shop.
we've done some other podcasts, but I know that we have never done another podcast in this podcast studio. So that's what's definitely weird.
Oh, okay.
It's generally some phone stuff and shop stuff and offices, but this is the first time that we've flipped.
It's got a little of that Wayne's
You're on the
World
back.
feel,
We're on the
doesn't
back
it?
side of it this time. It's really weird.
Okay, so a little bit of a backstory here. So you guys work with my friends Mike and Jim Ring. Uh, they're okay.
Yeah, they're getting the hang of this hot rod building thing.
They're okay. I mean, they're starting to catch on with building cars, but you know,
A little
they
late in the
terrible
game and be
people?
in their 70s just now to be catching on.
Coming into their stride right about now in their late 70s, right?
Yeah.
right. No, they're the best. We met them years and years ago. I saw, I think one of the first cars that they built, the red Mustang convertible, showed up at like showed up at an event in Scottsdale, Arizona at night. It's like a Friday night or Saturday night car show at like a McDonald's parking lot, which is it's like a Home Depot and everything. And somebody had the car there, and I was looking at it, and I was like, "This is interesting." It's like, who built this car? And I don't believe they were there. Maybe it was the customer's car was there. And it was interesting, and started looking into it, and then eventually met the guys when I think Adam Kroll and I went and at SEMA and helped sort of debut one of their cars. It was the Fairlane.
The Afterburner.
Afterburner.
Right? That was a cool car.
Afterburner. That was 15 years, 10 years ago.
I don't know.
How long.
It's
Was
probably
that
2012 to 2014 era,
Something like
somewhere
that.
around there.
10, 12
Long
years
time
ago,
now.
something like that? Yeah. So, when I met those guys, and I was like, all right, you're okay. And no, we just kind of hit it off. And I think over the years, they've been by our studio and brought a number of cars and been on the podcast. And at a time when it was just kind of it was kind of odd, but like, hey, who owns this car and who's sponsoring it, and can we get it out to California, and can we get you on the podcast and shoot videos for it? And those guys were like, yeah, we want to do it. And then it's like, but we got to ask our customer, we got to ask whoever's hauling cars around, Royal Purple or somebody like that at the time. I don't know.
Let's be honest. I don't know what the listener base is on this or what we need to edit. Maybe you can edit this, but it was more like I ain't bringing that cocksucker out there for fucking free. That fuckers, you fuckers are gonna pay for this motherfucker.
Well, we did not pay for it. We didn't have as much. And they were great guys. And we try to figure out a way to like go. Are you going from SEMA to like Southern California for like a good guy show? Can you stop off in Burbank, and can you do it? And it worked out. Like, we've done it many times, and then
Yeah.
it worked out. And then I don't know if you heard of this guy, Jay Leno. He started doing that too.
Good for him, yeah.
Now everybody brings a car to Jay, and I think they fly cars in for him.
Yeah.
Before we were trying to drag cars over to our shop to do it, but now Jay's
Jay's got a cool thing going, man. I always
got a
enjoy
cool thing going.
always enjoy watching his reviews because he's such a knowledgeable guy and just so like sort of nonchalant and
Down to earth.
cool.
Yeah.
Have you guys been out there? Have you been to Jay's?
We never have. No.
You haven't. No, I thought you guys would have had a car on there because you've done so many great builds. Listen. I Jay and Adam Carolla go way back from before the Tonight Show. They were, Adam was like doing construction on a house, and the guy across the street was Jay Leno, and it was like that's
Really?
kind of how they met. It was kind of funny story. Like Adam was like swinging hammers. He'd start early, and then he would see this guy come out early afternoon, lunchtime, 1 o'clock, fussing with his motorcycles and a car like in his garage in his driveway, and then Adam went over and he's like, "Hey, I'm Adam. I'm doing work across the street." He's like, "Hey, I'm Jay." Adam goes, "I'm curious.
No,
I don't
you
see
are.
you go to work in the morning, but you're fussing with your cars at like noon." He's like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Comedy." And that kind of got Adam into comedy
Huh.
right there.
This seems like a good gig.
Yeah. Yeah. Jay's cool. Jay reached out to us just randomly years ago looking for some information on a 32 Roadster that he thought we built, which wasn't something we built, but such a nice guy. Just called, gives us his cell phone, says, "Give me a call. Let me talk through this." Josh called him, and just like a normal dude, walked him through like fixing his brake neutral safety switch or something, didn't you?
Yeah, something.
And really down to earth guy.
Yeah, that's kind of his MO. He's the sweetest guy. He's been nothing but absolutely amazing to me, of course, to Adam. He's invited us to his place when we were doing our documentaries. We'd always try to go over there first and screen it with him and a couple of his guys, and just get some feedback before we release like the final cut. Just we respect his opinion. So we've always had that opportunity. And by the way, we go there and he's just like, "I'll fire up the barbecue and we'll make burgers, or we'll bring a bunch of like Chick-fil-A or something. We'll eat, and then we'll watch in this little screening room," which I feel so bad. But when we did the Newman documentary, which was the first one in like 2016 or so, there's a scene in the film when they're talking about Newman and his brother, and they were like shooting or hunting or shooting skeet or something, and there's a loud like shotgun blast in the film, and it blew out Leno's audio system.
Oh,
So I don't know if we were ever going to get invited back, but the next year, the next documentary came out. He invited us over. He had a whole new audio system.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got a good audio guy.
yeah.
He had a whole new audio system. All right. So anyway, thanks for being on the show. I want to back up a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Roadster Shop and what it is that you guys do for people that aren't familiar. I'm sure they've heard the name a million times because we've talked about you. We've been fans of you guys and what you've been doing. But yeah, let's back up. What is the Roadster Shop, or just Roadster Shop, right?
Sure. Who wants to take it?
Go ahead, get after it.
Well, all right, Roadster. Well, we don't build Roadsters, interestingly enough. We started off doing a lot of like 30s era street rods, hot rod stuff, in the early 2000s. We were small chassis manufacturer, and really weren't building any cars, just doing like local service work, stuff like that. And grew the company tremendously over the years. And our primary focus is manufacturing chassis for virtually anything, any sort of classic car. I mean, at this point, we're not really dabbling in the 30s, but I'd say anything from like the 50s on into the 90s now. And yeah, I think we just put a tremendous focus on engineering, the style, the performance of the cars, the aesthetic, the ride, the stance of a car is sort of what the Roadster Shop is known for. Would
Yep.
you guys agree? Yeah.
Agreed.
So you take your car, you put it on a Roadster Shop chassis, and it just looks sort of badass. Like being car builders over the years, and working with guys like the Ring Brothers, or having guys like them as I guess sort of dudes we looked up to. I think we've just grown and built some really sort of trend-setting cars over the years, which is different than a lot of other chassis manufacturers. So we kind of have the vision as to how to set that car up right, and we incorporate all that stuff directly into the chassis.
Yeah, so we're one of the only chassis manufacturers that also does full high-end car builds. So we're using our product and refining it and staying on top of all the trends, staying on top of what the latest engine, transmission, accessory drive, how all that stuff works together, how it all packages in the car, and how it's kind of used by the end product. So we've got a ton of experience on building the cars, and then that really only helps us make our chassis product that much better for all the end customers that are building cars themselves or other shops that are building cars on a Roadster Shop chassis.
Yeah, I tell me about why you think the Roadster Shop. What have you guys done? What's the magic recipe here of taking Roadster Shop and blowing it up to what it's become? There are other chassis manufacturers out there. There's some that have been around for a long time. I mean, there was and I'm not trying to pick on anybody else. There's lots of great chassis manufacturers out there, but back in the day, it's like you needed an Art Morrison chassis, and still good, but now it seems like the best of the best that are showing up are on Roadster Shop chassis. And explain to me, like, what is that? Is that the chassis? Is that the relationship? Is it just good business acumen? Like, what have you guys been doing to make that happen?
Yes, to all those questions.
All of the above.
C, all of the above.
Relentless pursuit of perfection in every form of the business, from answering the phones, customer service, to packaging, to the crating, to the manufacturing, to the car build side, to management, to engineering, whatever and every. If you focus on always trying to be the best instead of focusing on we're going to be the best at this, I guess that's kind of what we've always tried to do.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, if you take all that out and if you were to just simply use the product, then I believe the product speaks for itself. And the reason it does is sort of like what Phil was saying. I mean, have you ever eaten at a restaurant, like a famous restaurant, where the chef doesn't taste the food? There's probably 75% of the chassis manufacturers out there, they don't build cars, or seldom do they drive anything that's on their chassis. And the ones that do, it might be like that one vehicle that gets built to launch said chassis every 5 to 10 years, whereas our business was split 50-50. We were really cranking out a high volume of cars and using that to learn and implement a lot on the chassis. So when a customer gets a Roadster Shop chassis, I mean, that's something that it's not like we just designed it 15 years ago and just left it alone and said, this is our sort of just classic product. This is the way it's engineered. This is what you get. They've evolved so much over the years from what we've learned driving a multitude of cars, tens of thousands of miles, and driving them in the way that they should be driven, right? Like driving the shit out of driving cars hard. Road touring cars, driving through some rough terrain, putting stuff on a drag strip, putting stuff on a road course, putting stuff in an autocross, and listening to what our customers are using their cars for, and then catering to that. So when a guy gets a chassis, number one, it's going to ride really good. Number two, it's going to handle good. But the build process is going to be so much easier on that customer because we design around like how we would build a car. So it's not just that there's a center cross member in this chassis. I'm heavily involved in the fact that, hey, like we need 3-inch exhaust. It's got to go over the axle. Where are we running the fuel lines? Where are the brake lines going? If a guy's got to run e-brake cables, where are those going to go? If the tunnel's coming up into the car, how much and where? And if so, can we make a tunnel for it that's laser cut? And just giving a guy something that totally eases the build process, I think, is really what sets us apart. Disagree?
Agree.
How has the process of chassis building changed over the years? It can't just be I'm bringing in some wreck of a car and I'm measuring and measuring and measuring. There's got to be, I mean, now with the technology of scanning and 3D printing and automation and laser cutting and water jets and the process, I don't know if that process makes it faster or cheaper for you guys or just more accurate and precise or again, sort of all of the above. But I mean, if you think about chassis building even 15, 20 years ago to now, it must change, especially as you're doing high volume.
You were just talking about this the other day with the paper templates and the plumb bobs and the measurements and stuff like that.
It's changed tremendously, and we've been in it long enough to have evolved with it and started like kind of very primitive, I'd say, but that was the way it was done. You don't even want to call it primitive because at the time we were pretty like advanced, and what we were doing was
We had better tape measures.
right. Yeah, it was really good plumb bobs and really accurate tape measures. But it was just that we would take physical patterns, like let's look back to the early 2000s, and a guy would want to bring in something that was a custom chassis that maybe we never did before. So maybe it was like a 36 Dodge, which that's the kind of thing that would have come through the door.
Or Plymouth.
Right. Yeah, a lot of Plymouth. And it would come in, and we would just the very first thing you would do is pull the front rear suspension out of it and find an appropriate wheel and tire size, like diameter that looked right. Stick them up underneath that thing and set that car or truck down on blocks. And I might spend the better part of a day just shimming things with like little 1/2-inch piece of plywood underneath this block, little 1/4-inch shim back here, standing back and just looking at it to nail the ride height. Once you get that, you scribble down some notes, and then it moved into taking physical paper templates. So we would pattern out the entire existing chassis. So we would take a frame rail pattern, and then we would go over to our table where we had about 15, 20 sheets, 15-foot long sheets of 10-gauge steel. We'd trace that out onto that table, and from there actually design it like to scale. So knowing like ride heights, you'd start kicking up rails, and there was tons of TIG rod that laid all over that table because
sweeps.
The TIG rod, you'd use like 16th rod if you needed to make something sharp, 3/16ths, if you really just needed a soft bend, and you'd start just creating sweeping profiles to step the front rail, step the rear rail, and then do the same with the top strap and the bottom strap, and then we'd cut them out by hand. And all of it was just sort of hand-drawn. We'd have hand-drawn schematics, and then you'd build them. The assembly process is not wildly different than it is today because we'd build them off of just a flat rotisserie. But really very little technology at the time.
Yeah, none.
Yeah, just
None.
A
But
row of
that's
drill
not-
presses with different drill bits so you can go different sizes down the line instead of changing out your drill bit.
That was automated.
Yeah. That was our assembly line of drill presses.
right. And for the really high-end stuff, you were doing something like really unique. And we did a lot of 32 crazy roadsters and stuff, which stretch wheelbases, and we're always changing the angle of the rails and things like that. We just build it on an actual table, like a flat 1/4-inch plate table where we would design the rail, put it at ride height, and start like hanging. We might like just put a spindle out here and start establishing track width and things like that and sort of build to it. And it's slowly evolved over the years, but it's to the point now that there's virtually nothing done by hand. It's all
on the mock-up side.
on the mock-up
Yeah.
side. Yeah. It used to be that I thought you needed to physically see the proportions of that car, that it couldn't be done without seeing the ride height in person. But the way we digitally scan cars now and the perspectives we get in CAD, it's so much better than doing it that way because, we can play with tire offsets, every single tire diameter and width known to man, make minor modifications to the body to know what happens when wheels and tires start running through their suspension travel when things are turning, and it's evolved just immensely. And not everybody's adopted that. There's still plenty of guys doing it the exact same way I described that we did it 20 years ago.
Well, as a builder, as a custom car builder with a handful of guys, you could have a nice business doing 2 or 3 cars a year. But as a chassis builder, that's not a real business model. You can't survive on 3 chassis a year, right? Like, so
Not necessarily, unless we're building them for Andy Leach, because we got some pretty,
Right.
we got some pretty damn cool stuff we're doing for him. But
Yeah.
Good point, by the way. Andy, great guy, sweet guy, and it's just some amazing stuff that he's doing.
absolutely.
I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but the cars are amazing, but even just the displays he builds to present the cars at events like the Riddler or something like that, or Roadster Show, or just like the display costs as much money as most people's new cars, I imagine. But
Yeah, Andy's he's a crazy talented guy, and I guess to kind of tie that back into sort of where you're going with it, you can't necessarily treat it like a car building deal, but mixed in with the high volume of chassis that we build, and even the high volume of chassis we engineer, we sprinkle in probably 2 or 3 really, really over the top custom chassis to do stuff that's taking care of guys like Andy or the Ring Brothers, or all these just high level builders.
It's probably more. It's probably significantly more than that. You're probably talking 5 to 6 a month.
Well, the one that, like what we're doing for Andy now,
that's
pretty,
probably well,
that's pretty out there, right?
But how many chassis how many chassis are you guys making? What are you doing like per month or so?
We're probably around the 1,300 plus a year.
And where are they going to? Are there that many builders out there, or are chassis also going to? I don't know what the exact term is. Is we have these builders now that are doing sort of an assembly line of things, to some level.
Right.
Jonathan Ward at Icon cranking out Broncos, and then a handful of projects. Rivology's doing Mustangs. I don't know, Broncos are happening, 3, 4 a month at some of these shops. Like, they're starting to become turnkey things. And I see why they're trying to keep costs down and work out the bugs to have a drivable car.
Right.
Do you supply to groups like that as well?
All of them. I mean, from the low volume production guys that are pumping out, 4 or 5, from 1 model to 4 or 5, 6 models. But then the end customer that's going to be doing the, spec Camaro or spec Mustang install himself in his garage on the weekends, maybe with his son. And then now, after we've done it, we're actually getting repeat customers from those guys. Like there was a DIY build.
Yeah.
They had a lot of fun with it. They put miles on it. Now they're starting their 2nd or 3rd or 4th DIY build. And then everything in between, all of your traditional shops that have been around, there's new shops popping up every single day. Younger guys are coming with like all kinds of ideas and all kinds of skill. And then shops that were, you talked about Ring Brothers. We talked about, Bobby Alloway. We talked about Rad Rides by Troy. We talked about all these shops that we looked up to when we were getting into it that are also our customers now, and those, they're all customers. They're all chassis customers. They all got wildly different styles, different needs. And I think going back to the custom thing, I wanted to touch on that is because I do think that that's an important piece of what sets us apart from the standards, because we continue adding to our standard offerings and applications, and the core group of offerings. But at the same time, we're constantly adding. Unfortunately for Phil, we don't say no a lot or ever in the chassis build side of things. But because
you want a 6-wheel van?
Yep. No problem.
Absolutely.
We can do it.
Which that one I didn't say yes to, but it was a cool piece to build.
But I think that is because we have continued to want to do that and work with the builder and the end customer on that custom project, where we will get the vehicle, we'll do a full 3D scan, we'll start getting stuff modeled, the builder and the customer will fly out, we'll walk through that process, and you're looking through, you're designing the suspension, but you're also kind of getting the bullet points of the build. Like, this is your wheels and tires, this is your backspace, this is your ride height, this is what you're going to have to do on your end fabrication wise to fit this, DCT transaxle and a seat, like a human has to be in there, and start going through that. Hey, on exhaust, you're going to do that. Because we've done that, it's allowed shops to have the comfortability or the level of comfort when they're talking to the customer. When the customer starts talking about, hey, I've done a few cars with you, let's do something wild. In the past, it's been like, all right, well, we can, but like, how much can we take on? Well, when it's like, well, I can reach out to the Roadster Shop, and whatever my craziest, stupidest dreams, they're going to at least within reason allow us to get the suspension and the main structure of the vehicle figured out and the packaging of it. I mean, the byproduct of knowing what you're going to do, packaging, headers, exhaust, steering, motor, blower through the hood, wheels, tires, and some of that. Even if we're not building those items, we're building the chassis. You get that punch list beforehand, you can start working on those items, or you're not having to figure it out on the backside and start mocking it up. Yeah. That's a cheat code for a lot of shops out there. They're like, okay, well, what else can you do? Can you go ahead and mount that engine? Can you go ahead and run the exhaust? Can you go ahead and do the floors? Can you go ahead and do the tunnels? Yeah. But it's an important part of what, and because we've done so much of that, we've actually kind of treated the business. We've actually got a different line. I mean, we've got like a Skunk Works and Customs line that those guys build just those custom chassis because the volume is there. So it's not any one of those is hurting the other pieces of the business.
How much how much of your business do you think is the DIY customer? How much is direct to consumer? You're sending chassis to people's homes or, you know, whatever they've got.
What do you think that is, Phil?
I'd say it's probably 25%.
I was going to say, yeah, 30, but 25 to 30 is.
But that's a huge amount. Like before, if you were sending a chassis to me, I would start thinking, this is going to be so much work and I got to know how to weld and I got to cut floor pans out and I got to like there's so much I got to do to get, to get my Fox body Mustang to sit onto a chassis. Like all this cutting and I got to do and like it's just out of scope for me. Is that still the case? It's got to be easier now. Like you must be making it easier for guys like me to put a chassis under a Mustang.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of went from late 90s, early 2000s, where there was a ton of DIY guys building traditional street rods at home. A little older generation, they were a lot more hands-on, I would say. Then it kind of shifted into some of the muscle cars and the late 50s, early 60s stuff that almost seemed a little bit too complicated. And then it kind of shifted to a lot more shops doing builds. As we've taken on more technology, we've been able to make our chassis just so much more user-friendly. And we've been focusing like our spec chassis line, almost everything is completely bolt-on. So instead of buying bolt-on control arms and a bolt-on rear forelink and then weld-on subframe connectors and trying to piece all this stuff together, we're able to put together a complete package that I wouldn't say like any home builder can do, but anybody with a little bit of skill and a little bit of ambition can build a pretty awesome car. And we've taken all the guesswork out where all the suspension geometry is figured out and that's set. You're not cutting on your floor and welding in front cross members and hoping you're getting that straight and hoping you're welding in your rear four bars straight into the body. You're getting all modern performance, modern suspension geometry where we're no longer limited to bolt-on control arms of the original subframe. So we're able to make a significantly better end product that's significantly easier for the end customer to start the build on.
Some of these, we joke about it. If you're getting the chassis delivered to your home and you're going to do the build at home on a spec C10 or Camaro, the logistics of receiving the chassis in the crate is generally the hardest part. So those are big, right? It's a if you can handle the logistics and the planning of getting that, some help, then you can figure that out. If you can handle that part, you can build the car.
It's a good test to see how resourceful you are to handle a 15-foot-long, 1,000-pound crate.
And thought process beforehand.
Or how well-liked you are.
How many friends you got to help.
A few good neighbors and a couple cases of beer, and boom, that thing's in your garage. Right?
Yeah.
Listen, these days, I feel like if you can get a lev rack delivered to your house and you can build it on your own, you could probably manage getting a chassis because that lev rack's a cool system. But by the way, when you've got to take that damn thing apart to try to move it,
it comes as one unit, does it?
I lifted the whole thing up with a forklift and moved it from one warehouse to another. Probably not the best solution, but eventually I had to move it out of a warehouse. I'm just like, I don't want to take this part apart, take this damn thing apart.
I hear you.
The other thing about the chassis that you were talking about is doing enough of them and building cars there and driving the cars there, getting it to work reliably. It wasn't that long ago where, let's face it, a lot of really good builders were building cars that were constantly back in the shop. It's not running right. It overheats. It looks great. It's a great art piece. And maybe the customer would go, all I got to do is try to make it through the Hot Rod Power Tour in one piece. And if that's good enough for me. But I don't think that's good enough anymore. I think people would want to drive these cars or at least have some expectation going, I want to be able to drive this car. And we used to quaff at that. We used to just go, oh, I want this thing to have 1,000 horsepower and daily drive it. And everyone's like, you're not daily driving it. You're not
Right.
daily driving it. Like, get that out of your head. Everyone's like 900 horsepower. It's going to overheat. You can't daily drive it. And I know customers were asking for that 15 years ago, and everyone's rolling their eyes, going, "Good luck, buddy." Everybody says they want that, but you can't do it. Um, Now everybody still wants it, and you have to do it,
Yeah,
right? Like
but you can do it now, and it like I think George Poteet said it best with those kind of cars. What do you call them? Expensive engine stands.
Yeah.
That's what they were, and we're guilty of it back in the early 2000s. I mean, we did. I mean, you had a hard enough time making a 500 horsepower car like not overheat and not have little quirks, but we had guys come through with like a 32 3-window coupe that the guy wanted like a fuel injected supercharged tall deck big block things like 1,200 horsepower and
Yeah.
Through a radiator about that
Yeah.
wide.
Cog drive.
right.
Yeah.
It's just simply not going to work. But the whole it just that I'd love to take credit for that, right, and say it's all the chassis, but the whole industry has sort of evolved in making all the parts better. That you could daily drive a 1,500 horsepower car right now, and we've got some that you can. Like we finished up a 68 C10 with 1,000 horsepower Whipple charged Wagner motor in it, and truck's got like 2,000 miles on it now. The customer flew in from California, and I drove an hour and a half to the airport in it to pick him up, and an hour and a half back in bumper to bumper traffic with the windows up and the air conditioning on, and didn't even think twice about it because it's just got all the right parts to work. Like, I mean, it's from the gauges to the transmission to the fuel systems, but the chassis is what makes it enjoyable.
But the industry has stepped up.
Yeah, but the industry stepped
We
up.
we laugh all the
you got to
time.
get
And
the engine tuned, and now these days there's so many high power crate engines with sort of OE computers, every Coyote engine, LS engine. Not to mention engine builders have stepped up and going, hey, to be an engine builder, I don't need to do a custom thing every time. I can do what you guys are doing on the chassis side. Going, we have a line of 1,000 horsepower engines, right? We do 800 horsepower supercharged crate engines, Coyote crate engines, or we're doing twin turbo packages, or and what I imagine what can be done on the tuning side and EFI. Like, back then you try to tune a factory computer or you salvage something from a junkyard, but now Ford and GM and so many companies are offering uh, these power packs and ECUs and stuff. Not to mention taking the EFI systems from the racing world and making them more mainstream and the the street car world, if you will. You wouldn't think Motec was a thing. Like, I'm sure there was a lot of hot rod builders, engine builders 15 years ago going, I don't even know what Motec is because I don't build race car engines,
Right.
and
yeah,
now you can, right? That has to be a big part of the equation as well, is making something.
I definitely think it's multifaceted. I mean, it's not just the fact that, yes, the industry and manufacturers as a whole have had to adapt. The customers' expectations have adapted. Technology and coming down from the OEs has changed things. So it's all kind of, it works together. We've laughed all the time. We compare, car shows and building cars, to a beauty contest stuff, so it's, the beauty contest was the beauty contest, and you'd tape your boobs up and you'd do your, all your
You
stuff.
were doing that back then?
I wasn't doing it. No, I just know a little bit about the, the beauty contest. But when they start implementing different facets of that beauty contest, you could, okay, now you got a talent thing. When they started making it, like a triathlon where you actually had to like go out there and run and perform and do these different events. And then it just kind of changes what you're going to build for said beauty contest.
Did women evolve with that, you think? Like as a species?
Well, it's an analogy, right? So I don't think they ever got they were talking about the automotive industry.
Got it.
So when you start having more road tours and you start having, autocross, you have to make the thing perform. And we laugh all the time, chrome brakes, and the big blower and the stuff that you do for beauty, they have to start performing, right?
Yeah.
And the customers' attitudes changed.
I think the biggest change for us was like early 2000s, you were scared to death that your car wasn't going to make it idling through the award ceremony line.
Yeah.
And now we'll finish a car with 25 miles and we'll go on a cross country road tour with it and bring minimal tools or anything to work on it. Just building so much from having such good products, knowing what works, knowing what doesn't. You got the confidence to get in it, drive it halfway across the country, use it.
The secret, though, is the more tools you bring, the less you're going to need.
Yes.
So if you just pack it all, you're going to need none of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all those parts, though, I don't want to discredit the chassis or leave the chassis out of it, because you don't want to use a car every day if it doesn't ride good and perform well and handle good. Like, a car just tires you out. And that was sort of our like relentless quest for perfection. Is you're driving these cars and now people are starting to want to use them more. And if you're in the car and it sort of is like exhausting that the ride quality is not great, or like maybe it's even the seating position, it totally spoils the whole car. So we pushed like hell on everything from like anything NVH related, all the bushings in the chassis, the durability stuff. I mean, that was early on, just beefing everything so that you can go bombing down, I-65 here in, Indiana, which is like running the Baja 1000, just blasting speed bumps and, holes in the road. And you can be confident. You might bend a wheel, but you're not going to break a chassis. And that's just done, unbelievable things, I think, for these cars, is knowing that you can put something under the car that's going to be legitimately enjoyable, that you could put your wife in, put your kids in it, go on a cross-country road trip, and just know that the thing's going to ride really, really well and be enjoyable to drive.
It is a big component. I'm fortunate enough to get to drive a bunch of new cars as well. And I'll tell you, there's some amazing, amazing new cars that have so much sort of racing DNA put into it. But you spend a day in it and you're just like, oh God, my back. And it's just like the seat's terrible and the ride's terrible. Like, amazing on a racetrack, like the McLaren Senna. The McLaren 720S is one of the most amazing cars to drive. You can drive that thing all the time. It's great. I got in the Senna and it was such a blast to drive. And then I got in at about 9 a.m. and by around noon, I'm like, I'm going to stop for lunch. I got to stretch. This thing is killing me. It's killing me. But yeah, even then, it's as the OEs are trying to get to a certain performance benchmark, and it's tough to do. I think one car that you guys will actually really like, if you haven't driven it yet, is the Mustang GTD. That new Mustang GTD.
Haven't had the opportunity.
It's like I spent a day in it. I was tearing up in the mountains, and you put it in sport mode, and it gets loud, and the wing starts moving, and it's incredible, and handles amazing. Then you hit some traffic, you put it in regular street mode, you turn the radio on, you got the air on, and you're like, oh, I can hit the cruise control and just hit it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd love to get the opportunity to drive.
I'm glad to hear that review on the Senna, because I was thinking about picking one up for a daily driver.
Yeah.
A little concerned about the winters in Chicago, but if the seat's not comfortable, I'm out.
You think that what the hell's the dog you got? What's that thing called?
Huh?
What kind of dog? What is it called? The dog he's got?
Doodle.
The golden doodle.
Golden
yeah.
doodle. Yeah.
He looked pretty badass.
You can get a golden doodle in one of those.
Some driving glasses on.
Oh, my dogs go in every car that I got. We've got they've been in all the cars. I have to clean them all and give them back, but they all go back. Have you guys had an opportunity where you worked on something not really knowing, what it's going to be or what it's going to be worth? Like, did somebody go, hey, I'm working on an old Ferrari, this is the chassis, can you make a new one? And then it turns out to be, at Pebble Beach, and it's worth $100 million.
Now, people usually really communicate. We're pretty damn involved in the project. So when somebody brings something in, there's usually a lot of communication on what the vision is, what it's going to be. And I don't know, the stuff that we're doing, it's certainly not like Pebble Beach-ish. They're usually more modified.
Yeah, it's not
vehicles.
restoration stuff.
So no, I mean we've done some really neat stuff, but I mean the rings are probably the best example of like what a really high-end vehicle that's sort of landing in maybe like a
Concourse level.
yeah,
Yeah.
a little different style of individual that I think has gotten to experience that.
Right.
A little fancier, but yeah, like the rings, the Aston Martin, that's on a Roadster Shop chassis.
Yeah.
Something really
An
unique
amazing
that
car. We saw it. We saw it up at Monterey Car Week. We were at the Quail and saw them at their display there, and I think they had a great time. I think initially they felt like a fish out of water, but I I think they ended up having a good time and doing well there. Um,
yeah, it's cool to see some stuff like that sort of leading over into that world because that's
I mean, they've been practicing with the shirts for the last 15 years, so they had that down.
yeah, that's
for
a
sure.
good call, dude.
I mean,
For sure. All right, I want to talk about some of the cars, but let's take a quick break and
Sure.
we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. All right, so we got into the chassis business. I felt like we got into the chassis business there, which, and just to kind of put a cherry on top of that, go to the Roadster Shop, go to the Roadster Shop website. You can see the different versions of the chassis that you guys do. Um, the off-road chassis, streetcar chassis, custom chassis, the different versions of it, the options. There's some really cool features on the website as well where you can kind of build out and see, kind of price it out, what it's going to cost, what the options are, some really cool stuff there. But the, and last year, so I want to talk a little bit about SEMA as well, going into SEMA. I think it was last year you guys debuted the Fox body Mustang chassis. Was that 2 years ago? It was last year?
Last
last
year.
year.
I can't sometimes.
Yeah, they all kind of
Like I
blend
can't
together.
keep
I
track.
got to
You
think
get
for a
there and
second
it's a
too.
blur. I love that you guys are doing that. I've been yelling about Fox body Mustangs for years and years. We had a couple. That red one behind me there was at SEMA probably 2017 or so, 16 or 17, displayed with Magnaflow. And I brought another one, was just like a unibody with some suspension and stuff on it in the Tokiko Shocks booth. It's like a shell it had a Coyote crate engine with ITBs and a 6-speed and an IRS and no bodywork or interior or anything. It was a shell with that to show
Cool.
some suspension pieces. But uh, I love what you guys are doing with that car. I think what's next is a late model Camaro. That's the
Yeah,
next
so
90s era car.
we're following that up with third gen Camaro, and that's going to debut this year in the Roadster Shop booth at SEMA, and that's a pretty unique piece. We're pretty proud of that one. A ton of engineering went into that, and kind of following off the success with the Fox body, it was a natural fit to tackle that next. It's just a more challenging car.
Yeah,
than the Fox
you
body.
weren't really thinking about that when you're like, well, I mean, absolutely. If we did the Fox body, third gen Camaro's next without really any
No, I was-
detailed thought process on what the packaging would be.
Yeah, I've always been nervous about that one because we did some like we were talking earlier about these one-off custom chassis. You know,
Yeah.
we've done some stuff for a handful of guys that have done like perimeter weld-in chassis for the third gens, where we we've scanned a car, we've designed around it, and we've got something that's pretty cool, but it disregards just cut everything out of your way and weld the body to the chassis. And knowing those cars from the scan and looking around them, I mean, that's a very, very difficult car to try to package something within the unibody that's on it. And I think these things, they sort of come in time. You tackle them as we progress, as our engineering resources get better, and as we just get better as a team, you revisit them and then you take it on. And what I think we tackled it at the right time, because what we were able to produce with it, I think, is, in my opinion, pretty spectacular. And it's a very easy install. That it's a little bit of trimming on some of the little tails of the front unibody rails, drill a few spot welds, cut a small section off, you clip a little section of the rear subframe, just small little notch. Honestly, I would say in about 4 hours of prep work, you have that car ready to go onto this chassis, and there's nothing that impedes into the actual floor of the car. So nothing comes into the interior of the car, just minor trimming underneath, and it's essentially like a complete bolt-on piece that it's pretty damn cool. It's made me a believer out of them. Anytime we build something and then I want one, I know it's going to be a good product, and I want one. So
Toughest one? Was this the toughest one to make as a turnkey chassis? Thinking of, first gen Camaros, Mustangs, Fox body Mustangs, the truck stuff that you guys are developing, that
yep.
you already have out. Was the third gen Camaro the most complex to make it easy to install? Like you're that's the thing, is like
Yeah,
you're making a chassis that can bolt in and still perform and fit right and sit right and have the stance and you
yep.
know, yeah,
I'd say hands down, that, because that car, unlike, like, you look at the Fox body and it's got a lot of good things going for it to begin. It's already has a steering rack in it. I mean, and people have copied the suspension and street rods. It became the industry standard for like 30 years. And they're popular in the aftermarket. So guys have put big power to them. There's exhaust kits and things like that. There's so many other issues in the third gen platform. Like, you can't fit headers in them. You can't fit dual exhaust in them. You can't fit a proper muffler in them. You can't really sit them low.
yeah.
So trying to solve all those issues along with packaging a frame inside the existing unibody just sort of added to the complexity of doing it all. And then, like, pushing yourself to, it's always easy to sort of like just submit and say, okay, we'll cut it. Like, okay, we'll just cut the front sub rails out of the car because it's easier. But to kind of force yourself to think about it in a different frame of mind and push yourself to retain it, work around it, and get creative, it made that one really, really challenging. But everything we did ended up, I don't know, like, improving the product. So the sheer fact that we didn't want to harm the front sub rails, ultimately the byproduct of that was a really cool front suspension that actually has a ton of performance built into it, that maybe would have been some compromises if we'd have just hacked it out of there and sort of just put like a standard spec front end or something. And so this thing sort of just evolved into a more high performance piece, and it's a hell of a cool product.
We were able to focus on the bolt-in install side, makes it accessible to such a wider audience. You know, coming from our skill set and talking about a lot of these other guys that we mentioned earlier with the Rings and Andy Leach, like, they can build anything from scratch, right? If you cut your inner fenders out, cut your front sub rails off, they'll fab all that stuff, machine it, make one off. But the average guy at home, or, you know, the average body shop, they have no idea how to do that. So building a chassis that bolts on saves them so much work and gets them a product they can get across the finish line quicker and get out and start enjoying it.
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting point. Yeah, there's a handful of builders that are just amazing talents and have the vision and have built a business to get the right clients. But if you're sending, hundreds of chassis out to DIY guys, people's homes, smaller shops, body shops, we've had several discussions on this podcast about training, about talent pool, about people being hired, even now, AI is blowing up, but guys like Jim Farley from Ford are going, but we need more welders, we need more fabricators, we even need plumbers and electricians. Like, we need we need these guys. What is it like for you guys? Are you at your shop and all the shops that you're talking to, is everyone still struggling to hire people, or are we getting a little better with that?
We fired everybody and we just do it all through AI now. Just
You guys at Salesforce, right? Salesforce is like, we have 9,000 customer service people. We just fired 5,000 of them because there's too many heads.
We rely very heavily on skilled, talented individuals. That's how we've gotten to where we're at. Like, our chassis builders, our parts fabricators, our frame rail builders, some of the best of the best. And it is just old-fashioned skills. right? You got to be able to weld, you got to be able to fabricate and lay it down. Sure, there's opportunities to use robotic stuff that you could do some things, but it's just not the way we operate. And I don't think that there's areas you can implement it, but it's not the way that the industry is going to go as a whole. So we rely heavily on talent. And it's very, very difficult to add to that sort of core team because it's noticeable out there, more so on the hot rod shop side, like trying to find guys that are sort of free thinking fabricators that can just sort of make something from nothing.
Mhm.
It almost doesn't exist anymore.
I think that the talent pool is in a better shape now than it was probably pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic?
I would say so now. But a lot of that comes to do with excitement level of wanting to get into it, not so much the actual talent in it. So there's a lot more.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's
Honestly, though,
awareness is there and enthusiasm's there.
and trying way more enthusiasm and way more people applying and wanting to do these trades than there was pre-pandemic. It's just the problem is the skill set hasn't gotten to the point that a lot of people need them to be.
Well, how much of the skill set, how much are you looking to hire knowledgeable people versus what can you cultivate? Like, do you do training in house? You bring on, eager, enthusiastic people and say, I can help you. You're going to start apprenticing or whatever. You're going to start learning
Yeah.
something here. Do you have to teach it at in house?
Certain things will teach. And to be honest with you, I'd love to say that we'll bring on a bunch of enthusiastic young individuals and teach them and bring them up. But the reality is that sort of doesn't work. We've tried it a bunch.
Okay.
And it's very difficult to find somebody that truly has the work ethic and the enthusiasm that match. I think that, from the outside looking in, maybe this looks like something that's really exciting and just, it's cool. It's cooler than a lot of other professions, but I don't know that a lot of guys have the work ethic to put in. I mean, we've gone down that road. We've had some success with it here and there, but it's largely been unsuccessful, I would say, because guys just don't want to put the work in to learn it or the extra effort that it takes to just sort of get past the apprentice stage and really learn the skill and become an actual fabricator. Now, on the chassis shop side, we've had some great guys that brought in at fairly entry level positions that have grown with the company, and it's the right fit. It was the right level of enthusiasm and the right work ethic, and then it does fit, but kind of difficult to find, I'd say.
Yeah, we're not exactly set up to be able to invest. That's not our business model. We can't set up to invest in the future and teach them everything that they need to know. Then when coupled with the lack of work ethic that it probably would take for them to learn, you're not going to put that on the customer to say it's not their responsibility to pay more,
Right.
to pay more labor rate or hours for some guy to learn, right? That's just not our business, right? It's unfortunate because we want more guys, but we're not a school. And
But you were kind of touching on it earlier. You have to create enthusiasm for it and awareness for it. I mean, you think about, in the 80s, we all watched Top Gun, and Top Gun had more, and all of a sudden the military had more people applying to get to the military than anything because of a huge movie.
Right.
And even recently, with some pretty good racing films, from Rush to F1, and there's a couple of, Ford v Ferrari, there's a couple of good films. There you go. I didn't know that about this industry. I didn't know that about the history or how things were made. And there's something kind of cool there. I mean, I'm not talking Fast and Furious movies. I mean, the first one, I mean, we all watch them because they're, you know, big summer blockbuster popcorn films and they're ridiculous. But I don't know the last time you guys had a submarine in Alaska, but I that never happened to me.
It's
So
2019 or
Yeah,
2019.
we haven't made any cars
What
drive in
chassis was it
space
on?
yet.
Like we made the chassis for the submarine for
Yeah,
that.
we're waiting to do a collab with Elon, and get something like that going, but we'll see.
Yeah. It's going to use you guys for the next framework for his rocket going into
Yeah.
space, probably.
It's a good point because everybody that we talk to that's kind of about our age, came from our era, it was all Jesse James and West Coast Choppers, watching that, watching OCC, watching American Hot Rod, like that created the excitement.
Having
that
those
turned
reality
into-
shows.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was growing up, we all looked at Boyd Coddington. We looked at Boyd's Garage. Guys that like Brad Fanshaw, who I do the podcast with, who was president of that company for a long time, and in the cars that he's built over the years. And by the way, Boyd's company also one of the probably the only or the first hot rod company to spin off and be publicly traded, like to try to create some attention in that space before any of the aftermarket companies were doing that. I think Edelbrock went public and then they went private again and now rolled up into another conglomerate. But it just wasn't really, it wasn't there. There wasn't enough happening, what did we have? American Graffiti before that,
Yeah.
that films like that, but more awareness and some interesting films and the press that is being created in YouTube now and how many YouTubers are building, which is interesting because a recent statistic came out about the young generation. They're asking them what they want to be when they grow up, and by like an crazily wide margin, like more than 50% was like, I want to be a YouTuber or a
Yeah.
TikToker. And then down the line still was someone like wanted to be like a doctor or a teacher, but it was just like the scale was wildly off because I think if a few years ago, if any kid went to their parents and said, I'm going to be a YouTuber professionally, and they're like, that's not a profession. Like, I don't know what that is, but now it is for sure. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's not a great thing. I think it gives kids sort of a false idea of what's possible. Like, because look at some of those YouTube guys like Whistling Diesel. I mean, excuse me, he's got a crazy following and he does some wild stuff, but what's the feasibility of like going and buying a brand new Ferrari and doing YouTube videos, like destroying it for most people? Like,
Right.
for
That's
guys,
kinda silly,
it's so out of reach to get to these guys' level.
A friend of mine, Freddie Hernandez, is Tavares. He tries to, turn wrenches, man, and build cars, and he does some crazy over the top stuff with modern supercars, but him and he's got a handful of people that are helping him out, and they're figuring out how to wire these things up and get them to run and do carbon fiber work and start welding and stitching interiors. Like it, you're right, like maybe this wasn't there before. It was just sort of a finite profession you'd go to a specialty school for. But now some of these guys, if they want to make money on YouTube, they got to learn how to do some of that stuff. I'm talking YouTubers in the car space. Obviously, if you're, if you're Mr. Beast or something, I don't. He's not turning any wrenches, right? He's selling chocolate bars. So you guys work with this is going to be I don't know, maybe this is a tough question, but as we head into SEMA, of course, we'll see the best of the best out there, cars being debuted. You mentioned so many great builders from Andy Leach and Troy Trepanier and Ring Brothers and Bobby Alloway and so many others. I was going to ask you guys when I was getting ready for the show. I was going to say who right now, who's the best? Who's the best builder? But I think maybe that's a little unfair. So I'll say top three. Who are the best three builders out there right now?
I guess we're going to find out here in At SEMA. Yeah, I mean, we do
That's the way to answer
top
that, dude.
5 and best on the RS. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the
a
best
good question.
IRS, like, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I should just go to the event and find out who's going to go. Right?
Yeah, there you go. That'll be number one in the
Yeah.
whole wide world.
What you guys have seen in the last decade.
Yeah.
I mean,
For me, I think unanimously, I'm sure these guys will probably say the same thing, but I think as a whole, we all look to Troy, from Rad Rides by Troy as being just sort of, he sort of lives in his own world. He's so above everybody from a detail standpoint that even like there's some guys doing some really cool stuff, but I just don't see anybody on that level of fit, finish, ingenuity. I mean, he's got his own style, which maybe is not everybody's cup of tea. Certainly more vintage inspired, really beautiful hot rods. But that for me, that's the number one.
It's the
No question about it.
closest that I've ever seen over
To perfection.
to perfection.
Yeah.
When you're just talking about the craft and the skill
Yep.
of what you're building. There's no other answer, I don't think.
Yeah, he's a shoe in number one, and there's probably 25 shops that could be two or
Two and
three.
three.
Yeah.
Yeah. One and two, like for me, I think is easy. I mean, I truly believe what the Ring brothers have done and where they're at today, like the last few creations that they've built, that slides them, no disrespect, but, end in the number 2 slot, in my opinion. Just because it sort of speaks to me. Some of their style is just, they push it. They push the boundaries. It's so unique. And it, like the Aston just has a absolute beautiful look to it. So when you put that side by side with Troy, I guess that's kind of a toss-up because maybe it's not as highly detailed as a Rad Rides car, but visually, aesthetically, it's fucking beautiful, man. Like really cool. And what else has been done to that level?
Right.
I don't know.
and you're right. And Andy Leach does some incredible stuff. Hollywood Hot Rods, Bobby Alloway. There's a lot out there, but I think what the Ring brothers did with the Aston Martin is more significant than we realize. Maybe not you guys being in the space, but to the outside world, just car enthusiasts. First of all, doing a car like that hasn't really been done is significant, but also like having a customer come in and getting on board with it or even pitching it. I don't even know how it came in. I mean, we look at so many of the good builds that have happened over the years. And of course, those builds are also meant to influence creative ideas. You do a Fox Body Mustang and go, well, I did this as custom. This is custom. You may not like it, but I'm trying to get you interested in doing something like this. Like, do you have a Mustang or do you have a Camaro or do you have, an old Ford or you have a truck and you want to do some cool stuff with it? So what happens is when you go down that route is a bunch of shops build a really nice 69 Camaro, and then every customer's like, dude, I want a 69 Camaro, right?
Yeah.
And okay, I get it. It makes sense. It may seem like, we're Roadster Shop. We've done 100,000 of those. Want to pick something else, but that customer's going, but I've never had a 69 Camaro, so it is still special to me. So I'd still like a 69 Camaro, and I get it. But as a builder, you want a customer to come in and go, listen, let's do something different. Let's get creative. Let's get out of the box. Or have them go, I grew up with, an Aston Martin. The podcast here that I normally do with Goldberg as well. Goldberg is a big muscle car guy. He's a Dodge guy. But growing up, his
Jag guy,
favorite
right?
car was a Jag XK.
Then he grew up and realized that he can't fit in one.
And he couldn't fit it. That's right. That's like he had the Jag, the XKE, I think. He had the Jag. And then, and then he became like, 13 years old and couldn't fit in it.
Well, XKE is a beautiful car. I mean, XKE's been at the top of my list for cars I want to build for a long time.
Yeah.
What you just said about how important it is that what the Ring brothers built, I think you're 100% right. a little inside baseball, and you mentioned, having that right customer that comes in, and how do you pitch a build like that? Stepping a little more in detail about how special it is at the ring, but what they pulled off. Those conversations happen way more than you think all over the country and the world, with shops and a customer that wants to do something wild, that comes in and says, I want to do this, this, and this, and let's do this. Those conversations happen all the time. The problem is the level of honesty, not being doing it in a bad way, of what that's actually going to look like from a financial lift.
Yeah.
From the shop being honest and the customer being honest with themselves of what they're able to handle, right? That's generally a breaker. The other problem is they did that car in 18 months, right? So having the conversation and then the customer being like,
well, they need to stop doing shit like that.
Right.
They've been saying that for 10 years though.
Yeah,
like, hey, we brought 3 cars to SEMA. We're never doing that. Sure.
Yeah.
I heard they used AI for most of it.
Yeah.
I heard it's all robots over there.
It was
AI.
they made a time machine. It actually took like 10 years, but
The honest
They
conversations
came
that
back the same age though.
they had with that customer, and his honesty of like, yep, let's do it, I'm all in, and then them making the progress and bringing it to the finish line. I mean, that is something special.
I think the important thing with doing cars like that, it's like there needs to be some people out on the dance floor for everybody to get out there, Yeah. So once you start having some things like that, not everybody's a risk taker, and it's easy for people to just fall in line that they want a custom car. Well, I mean, there's a lot of 69 Camaros are cool. We'll do one of those. It seems safe, but I think we could do something really wild with it. A lot of people need to see some of these types of cars being built at high levels before they're comfortable getting out on the dance floor and doing it,
Well,
in my
part of the
opinion.
issue, so we had this discussion with the rings years ago. They came over. Adam Carolla was a big Lamborghini collector, and we've had several in various stages, some done, some projects. We looked at like the 400 GT that we had there that was a shell at the time, and we're like, would you guys be interested in doing this car? And of course, they're like, yes. It's a 67 Lamborghini 400. I don't even know what I would do with it. Like, let's just start thinking about it. And then, for various reasons, we didn't end up doing it. But, back then the car is $80,000. Now the cars are $400,000. So they're being restored and they're being traded at Gooding and RM Sotheby's. And that's part of the issue as well. It's like people can be definitely hesitant on going, hey, let's take a $2 million Lamborghini Miura and let's
There's
build
got to be
something.
there's got to be somebody someday.
Yeah,
Please,
Great. I mean,
You link our phone number there.
man.
look, I mean, maybe the way, everything sort of aligns on a project like that is a Miura, somebody finds a Miura that's been burnt to the ground, or it's been salvaged and the clamshell is gone or something, and it's not numbers matching. Now you're really digging into the value of that car, but you have the bones of this car here. You have something there to do it with. Then it maybe makes sense. But look, Bruce Canepa on the different side of the custom car building world, right? Canepa's taking $1 million plus Porsche 959s and doing Canepa 959s and selling for 2 point something million dollars. And honestly, I don't know how many he can do a year, maybe 2 or something or whatever. And he's backlogged because people are going, oh, that is interesting what you're doing. You're taking a 959 and you're making it what you guys have been doing, making it drivable, making it not overheat, making it comfortable to drive. And that's what's sort of blown up in the high-end car world with companies like Singer and so many others. Maybe you're not familiar with. Superleggera is doing 550 Ferraris, and they're taking a 550 and going, we're redoing everything on it mechanically so it's reliable. You don't have to take the engine out every 3,000 miles. And then we're doing a carbon fiber body that looks like a 550, but it's got all the subtle touches to make it, slightly nipped and tucked here. And it's a little wide body and the scoop's a little different. And now you've got one that you can drive, But those companies, you go to them with a donor car, right? There's Lancias, there's Porsches, there's 928s, there's 911s, there's, we saw Alfa Romeo's companies doing that now. Volvo's, the company, Cyan is doing Volvos, right? So yes, having the custom car building world on your side of the fence, you guys, Rings, Alloway, Troy, like having customers potentially go in there now. And honestly, this is why I'm saying why the Ring Brothers Aston Martin is important. Taking the car you wouldn't normally think about cutting up and bringing it to a group like you guys and going, I'm okay with this. Let's do this. And if we create enough story behind it and present it well,
Yeah.
it can create value in its own. If somebody just does a really, really nice Aston Martin, that's cool. But if you do a really nice Aston Martin and you debut it at Pebble Beach and then you bring it to the SEMA show and you make it the most famous custom built Aston Martin in the world, now you've got something that is valuable and you can enjoy. So I think,
Yeah. Yeah, it is cool. And there's obviously you're not going to find a lot of these things on Facebook Marketplace. There's no like 60s Lamborghinis or Astons like floating around out there, but there is a lot of cool, unique, sort of weird stuff that's obtainable that maybe people will become more interested in. Like, I mean, I think this is Phil's gonna cringe, but like you could do something cool with like a '90s SL 600 Mercedes. That was a cool ass looking car.
yeah,
You can modernize that. You can do some really neat resto mod. There's a bunch of Mercedes, BMW stuff. I mean, there's some neat cars out there that are still like we did a chassis for a Facel Vega. Was it like a
okay.
56 or something? And that's going to be Miranda Built's doing that. It'll be a resto mod with a modern Gen 3 Hemi in it. And that's just fun. It's different. And there's cool vans, and me and Phil look at stuff all the time on Bring a Trailer, and you're always like, oh, that would be kind of cool to tweak. I just wish people would step up and do it. But the problem is most people are building something for a reason. It's a car that they've got some nostalgia with, something they grew up with, or something that was
Yeah.
not a lot of people aspired to have a Facel Vega when they were in high school,
Right.
They
There's a
aspired
story
to-
behind
but
it.
a lot
They
of guys,
saw one or
yeah, a lot
something.
of guys aspired to have a Fox Body Mustang or a '69 Camaro or a 1970 Chevelle, or saw it in a movie. Like, for a lot of us, I mean, we saw the cars on the wall right here, the black and white '70 Chevelle from Dazed and Confused. We all grew up with it. We thought it was badass, and everybody our age would love to have one.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of cool SL 600s in movies, I guess.
Seeing Scotty Pippen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pippins.
Yeah, right. I agree. I agree with that. And I again, I think the more that you guys do, and the more to get it out there, put it on YouTube, do the press releases, just like as much media as possible. But you don't really think about in the hot rod world, custom car world, is like how much media you got to do. Honestly, you do, because that's what keeps this alive. We need to be excited about it. Like we need to go see Top Gun Maverick and want to fly planes, right? We want to see
Sure.
the next, a great car movie and want to build cars or go car
Right.
racing or restore things, and uh, that's what we kind of take away from.
Right. I think we
And it's
need
not
more.
just movies now. We have social media. We have so many other resources to make that happen.
I mean, the more cool ass car movies would go a long way. I'd be curious to see what like super performance GT40 sales were after Ford versus Ferrari, if they had like
I
a
can
big.
tell you they were very significant.
Really?
And they ended up doing another line of cars. It's called the movie edition cars, and they were basically like the replicas. They weren't modified in any way. So yeah, they did very well. Super Performance, Lance Stander, they continue to do very well. Listen, I ask those guys all the time. I'm like, they go to Barrett Jackson and Scottsdale. They bring
Oh,
out
they
that
sell out.
display, a bunch of cars, and I always ask Lance. I go, "This is not inexpensive for you to bring this rig, all these cars, all this display." And he's like, "Yeah, but we'll sell,
All of them, usually.
we'll sell a handful of cars before we leave." He's like, some of them don't even come home with us. We just like, here you go.
Yeah.
Like they'll bring turnkey packages because they don't want to bring those things home. Again, like the lev rack guys, they show up at Barrett Jackson, they're like, buy the
Sell
floor
out.
model. We don't want to bring it home. And I'm fans of those guys, which is why I bring them up. But all right, so before we wrap up here, what's going on in the shop? The chassis building side, you told us about what's going on in the car building side, because that seems to be super active.
Yeah, the car building side's active. We got some neat stuff going. We're actually wrapping up quite a few cars right at the moment. So we've got sort of like back to back to back to back Survivor cars that are going to be rolling out. So we'll be doing some more like driving videos and getting some press, some media stuff up on that stuff. But yeah, nothing wild. Some Chevelles, Tri Fives, kind of a cool. Was it a 50 Merc or 49 Merc?
49
Oh, there's
Merc.
49 Merc. That's a cool Survivor that's got a pro-charged LS3 that's kind of dialed up to look like a McCullough supercharged Y-block Ford.
Okay.
But some of the higher end stuff, we've got a 53 F100 that it's sort of like a scratch built truck that we've been working on for several years for a good customer. And that one, it's approaching being moved to the body shop. So, we'd probably be looking at a 2026 debut on it. Some cool Fox bodies coming out. And probably, one of the more interesting cars, which is right in line with what we were just talking about, is 71 Pantera.
Yeah.
That
You've done a couple Panteras now.
we've done a lot of Pantera chassis, but we've never actually built the car. So this is it's a vehicle I've wanted to build as long as I can remember, and we found a customer that sort of aligned with our vision. And it's going to be V12 powered with a DCT transaxle.
Okay.
Sort of modern supercar wrapped in like vintage sort of Trans Am styling, and should be a hell of a cool piece. So we're excited about that one, and a lot of cool mid-year Corvettes coming out the pipeline, and yeah, we're on the gas for sure, just pushing to get them all out there.
Yeah, I was going to ask what was on your wish list of chassis to build or cars to build, but you guys got so much cool stuff going on in the shop. I'm not even sure how much you had time to think about something like that.
Yeah, the one like I told you, that XKE, that's been the XKE and the Pantera have been two vehicles I've always wanted to build.
Yeah.
So if anybody's listening that wants to pony up for a badass XKE build, reach out by all means.
I was we've had these conversations about the Lamborghinis because Adam had so many and looking at Lamborghinis, a Lamborghini that I think that can be given the right treatment, the custom treatment, without spending $400,000, $1 million. It has a modern day supercar look. It just wasn't a very successful car. It's called a Lamborghini Yalpa.
Yeah,
And
I know it.
you're familiar with it?
Yeah.
Anybody that watched Rocky, was it 4?
Oh yeah, one of Stallone's many badass vehicles that he owned.
Great car choice.
I just think it's a cool looking modern day-ish,
Yeah.
90s-ish, 80s, 90s kind of supercar that never really, maybe just didn't work well enough, but I think it needs kind of a treatment. I think it can be done.
Dude, I'm with you. I've stared at that car before, and they pop
Right?
up on Bring a Trailer every once in a while, and there's a white one with white wheels, and it's pretty because it's still sort of in that price range where
Scoop
can
it
do
up
it.
now. It's not
Yeah.
gonna sit there, because what we always say here is the big brother brings up the little brother, right? The
Yep.
Gullwing SL brings up the 280, right? And it's like, so because Lamborghinis are picking up again, and Miras are $2 million, and 400 GTs and 350s are 400,000 plus now. Like,
Yep.
if you guys get an opportunity, scoop up a Yalpa, even if you have to put it away for a while.
Yeah.
But if you get one for under 100 grand, 80 grand, something like that, probably even high mileage thrashed ones for even less than that, get it, put it aside, and then you know what? Sometime down the road, maybe you guys decide to build it, or maybe you just want to fix it up and sell it and double your
Yeah.
money on it, because you'll you know, of course, you guys have the resources in house to be able to
Right. And I, don't
do a
think- I
little
mean,
car work.
that's not a terribly complex car like the Countach. I mean, those were V8 cars, right?
Yeah, they were. They were.
And carbureted, I would imagine. I mean, they're 80s era.
You know, they might have had some kind of fuel injection on it, but again, it's not the same as it was back in the day. You could rebuild that engine with a modern day fuel injection and some good tuning and probably get it to work right.
Yeah.
Speaking of Countach engine, I think uh, uh, Tom Nelson Racing Engines did a twin turbo Diablo engine on it. And
Yeah.
to get that
Cool.
thing to work was he's like, all the electronics need to go in the trash. You need to start from scratch and just do it
Yep.
with the systems that he knows, the fuel systems he knows.
Yeah, and then it's just a push rod engine at that point. It's just an
and
internal
that's it.
combustion
And then
engine.
for him to go through it and go, I'm going to make pistons, I'm going to make rods, I'm going to make everything to the standard that he's making things. So like, can it end up being more reliable? Then yeah. Now I don't know how far he went into like, does the Diablo engine have hot spots or heating issues or poor cooling issues? Like,
Right.
provided those things weren't really an issue, then you could theoretically build a modern version of that engine that works.
Yep.
I mean, he's got one. I don't know if it's in a car running. I
It
think
sure looks cool. I've seen it. It's
looked
badass.
cool, right? Yeah. All right, guys. I appreciate the time. I'm looking forward
Our
to
pleasure,
catching
man.
up with you guys at the SEMA show as well. And I know it's always tough leading up to the show to break out an hour and a half of time and sit around and do a podcast.
Oh, happy to do it, man. It was fun.
Uh, guys, of course, check out roadstershop.com, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of things coming out on their social media coming out of the SEMA show. So give them all a follow. And thanks for listening. And until next time, keep the air in the spare and the bag in the wheel.